let us turn our attention to the Kenny's Keys to Victory. And yes, that is me. And I've got some keys to victory for you all. And let's start with that weather, Nika, shall we?
Sure. Everybody's talking about it.
Looking at the AccuWeather forecast for Sunday evening, 1:18 on the calendar. I am showing 17 degrees, a real feel of -8, a wind southwest of 21 miles per hour, gusts reaching 44 miles an hour, 67% humidity. So a little bit of a trapped warmth for the faithful. But nevertheless, it is going to be cold outside. Cold. Damn, this reminds me of those mornings when I would walk from Union Station or Ogilvie Station over the bridge to Halstead Street, and boy, oh boy, was it cold, everybody.
And then the wind hits you on that bridge, and it is cold.
Yes, it's almost like, you go over the bridge, which is over the main downtown expressway in Chicago, and that gust of wind will just whip through there like a wind tunnel almost.
Oh, yes.
They call that the hawk in Chicago, where I come from, because it's the hawk is flapping its wings, and it's like a never-ending stop of wind.
I live in Chicago. I never heard of that.
Wow.
I know.
Well, it does go back to my college days. Okay. I that's the first time I heard it. Like, whoo, the hawk is out today, somebody said, and it kind of stuck with me.
And it's not the Black Hawks either.
It's not. All right, well, here is weather.com's forecast. It says 20 degrees during the day with a little bit of snowfall, perhaps. So we'll have that potentially beforehand. We had snow before the Green Bay game as well. And then it says night, 2 degrees, cloudy skies early, then partly cloudy after midnight. So this is getting a little deeper, but
it could change.
Nevertheless,
by Sunday.
It is going to be frigid out there. Now, the Bears are practicing outside this week, and it's not quite 20 degrees during the day yet, but I believe it's cold.
That's fine. You get your body acclimated better.
Yeah, this seems to be a strategy, because Kevin Byard, the captain for the Bears, told the media that Ben Johnson has taken away the heaters from practice this week as a way to help the Bears' bodies get acclimated to the conditions.
Okay, and meanwhile, the Rams are doing what?
Well, the Rams, QB1 Matthew Stafford from the LA Rams account, practicing in what I was seeing as 77-degree temperatures in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So the Rams are preparing for this one just as they normally would, and they are basically telling the media that they're not concerned about this and that they will adapt as the game goes on. Now, Tom Brady was on the Colin Cowherd show yesterday.
Okay.
And I happened to catch some of it, and I wanted to share what he said, because Colin Cowherd asked him about playing in the cold. And Tom Brady, playing for the New England Patriots in Foxborough for so many years, he had some really interesting things to say about this. The first thing is, he said that he felt like practicing in Foxborough, the way the Bears are practicing now, gave him an edge. It's like, that's how they practiced. Belichick was the same way. He took the heaters away and stuff, like all the comforts, and made them go out into the cold and get used to the elements and get their bodies kind of physically ready.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he felt like that helped. And so maybe this is a mistake by the Rams. I don't know, to not like just come here early and practice a little bit.
I don't know. Don't give him ideas.
Well, I mean, they're out of time anyway.
Yeah.
But the other thing that stood out to me is this, because a lot of people have pointed out that Matthew Stafford played for the Lions for so many years, and he obviously played outdoors against the Packers and the Bears and probably tons of other teams in October, November, December, and so on, January. Well, the Lions didn't play in January when he was quarterback, but Matthew Stafford has not played in a game below 45 degrees this year. And Tom Brady said when he went to Tampa to end his career that he was surprised how quick you lose it when it comes to playing in the elements, because practicing in the warm weather in Tampa did not prepare him as well as practicing in the cold weather in New England, at least according to what he said yesterday. So these 2 points jumped out at me a lot, as like, for everyone saying Matthew Stafford's done this before, it's like, yeah, they actually played in a snow game in the playoffs last year in Philadelphia, and how'd that work out for them? Not great. Anyways, Lots of talk about the weather here, and I don't want to hang too much on it. I just want to see an entertaining football game that hopefully the Bears win. That's really what I want to see. One last thing, though, about the weather that I will bring up is I feel like the Bears' special teams are going to have an edge in this game if they've been practicing all week in this. Think about it. Punts, high balls in the air, wind, maybe taking the ball. Is warm-ups before the game time in Chicago enough to get acclimated? Or is having done it all week going to work out better for the Bears? Kicking. We've seen Cairo and we've seen the Packers come in here and flub it up last weekend. So, I mean,
the wind will be a factor.
I don't rule out how important special teams might be in this game. All right. Well, the next key to victory is the coaching matchup in this game. And can Ben Johnson outduel Sean McVay, the offensive wizard of the LA Rams, I guess, who makes it all happen underneath the hood? I want to start this with Colin Cowherd, actually. He said Ben Johnson is the next Sean McVay. And the point here is that there is a rivalry that is forming here in the minds of the media, at least, between Ben Johnson and, let's just say, Kyle Shanahan's family tree of coaches.
Okay.
I'm of course speaking of Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, Matt LaFleur, and his brother Mike LaFleur, who, by the way, Mike LaFleur is the offensive coordinator for your LA Rams, everybody. The brother of the Packers head coach. We're going to see another LaFleur this weekend at Soldier Field, folks. There's been a little bit of rubbing in the media. They were asking Sean McVay, are you going to reach out to Matt LaFleur? And he kind of hinted like, well, maybe. And then he kind of said like, no, we do our own thing here. But really, most coaches were respectful towards each other so far with the media. Ben Johnson saying Matthew Stafford was one of the toughest players he's seen, and he respects Sean McVay for his winning ways. Sean McVay, on the other hand, says he studied Johnson really closely going back to his time with the Lions and praised both his philosophy and flexibility in applying those foundational principles to different types of quarterbacks. That's from Stu Jackson, who is a beat reporter for the NFL.com and covers the Rams. I noticed that Stu Jackson, by the way, did something really good and said that on his Twitter X bio that even though he works for the Rams, his opinions are his own and works for the NFL. So I thought that was really good of him to do. We see a lot of beat reporters who work for teams and work for the leagues, whether it's MLB, NFL. Not all of them put that on there, and I think they all should.
Yeah.
They all should.
Follow the money.
They are
Who
supposed to have
you?
Independent thought that is not corrupted by access or worried about repercussions or backlash from the team or from the NFL league. And he needs these people that cover the teams for the league and for the teams need to be able to operate independently and have their own thoughts. All right. Well, the biggest thing I want to point out with this coaching matchup between Ben Johnson and Sean McVay is pointing to this little coach timeout usage chart that was posted by Tom Bliss, who's a data analyst with the NFL, actually. And he posted this chart, how NFL coaches use timeouts. And I want to go back to a conversation you and I had off camera during the Bears-Packers game when I said, man, Matt LaFleur seems to use timeouts willy-nilly sometimes, nonchalant. I don't like it. Let's just call it timeout. And it happens in like the first quarter or early in the second quarter or maybe early in the second half, third quarter. And the NFL world we come from and live in, especially in the playoffs, it's like you got to save your timeouts for the end of the game. Sure. You have to. You never know when you're going to need those timeouts. If you just burn them willy-nilly, it can come back and bite you in the ass. And well, we actually kind of saw Matt LaFleur botch this timeout last week against the Bears, and then they had a delay of game penalty coming out of that timeout, pushed him 5 yards back. Packers missed a field goal. You know the rest. The rest is history.
Eberflus got fired for bad clock management.
He absolutely
one of the
did,
reasons.
everybody. If you remember the end of the Bears-Lions game on Thanksgiving last year.
It was one of the reasons he got fired.
It did. Or it was, I should say. So the reason I bring that up is because if you look at this chart, you'll see that a lot of the Kyle Shanahan family tree ranks poorly when it comes to clock management,
Okay.
including Sean McVay. So I'm just wondering if we will see that play a part in this game at all as we get on with it, because Sean McVay actually is ranked worse than Matt LaFleur
really?
is by one slot. He's ranked third worst at managing the clock.
Who is number one?
Sean Payton of your Denver Broncos, everybody. So,
Wow.
I mean,
and yet they are number one seed.
yeah, and I think it's offensive arrogance.
Yeah.
Mike McDaniel's right there, number 5. I mean, you're seeing, and then Kyle Shanahan 7. So 4 of those coaches from that tree are in the top 7 as far as being bad
Clock
with
management.
timeout clock management and, well, unnecessary defense and unnecessary offense. It means you're calling timeouts when you shouldn't be, and that you have a personnel issue, or you have like a mental breakdown on the field and you got to get out of it so that you don't get burned for 60 yards on this play or something.
So they go willy-nilly, basically.
Exactly. So this was really not surprising to me to see Matt LaFleur on this list, but to see all the Kyle Shanahan coaching family tree up here on this list, I feel like it's offensive-minded arrogance.
It is.
That like, oh, we don't need to play by the same rules because we're going to score so many points and it doesn't matter.
It's not going to
And
affect
I'd rather
us.
get out of a bad play and burn a timeout than save it for a rainy day. When how many of these games are so close at the end, Nika? Do you think the Packers wish they would have had maybe 1 or 2 more timeouts before that final drive? They had 1 timeout left against the Bears with 1:43 on the clock.
I'm sure they wish they had 1 extra.
Yep. I bet they do. All right. Well, the last note about the coaching I want to say is that can each head coach keep their emotions in check? Because this is sort of looking like there's some bad feelings between Ben Johnson and Matt LaFleur after the game last week, and we saw some of the fallout from that. It took up a large part of the establishment media conversation. Was Ben Johnson inappropriate? Blah, blah, blah. But is that rivalry now going to extend to Sean McVay and to Mike LaFleur, the brother? And are they going to be able to keep their emotions in check, I guess, on both sides, if there really is some heated animosity here? I'm kind of curious about that. You know, we saw Ben Johnson last week super aggressive on 4th down in the first half of the game. And while I understand the desire to keep the ball out of Jordan Love's hands at that moment, because the Bears could not go down any further in that game, I understand it, but I also will say that's kind of like psychopathic behavior there. Like,
well, high risk, high reward at that point. And you have to put everything on the line. This is your last game of the season or postseason. You got to put everything out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You either make it or you don't. That's it.
100% agreement, Nika. 100%. And, well, the Bears are going to need every inch of it this week against this Rams team because they are no joke, folks. The last key to victory is to just take a look at the Rams offense here. And we have the Caleb Williams, Matt Stafford quarterback matchup in this game. Youth versus experience. And 2 former number 1 overall picks, Nika. 1 from 2009 and 1 from 2024. 15 years separate these 2 men in their NFL careers. Literally. Wow. And yet, they are both doing magical things on the football field. This is from the NFL on CBS. Caleb Williams and Matthew Stafford were incredibly clutch this Saturday, and they posted this graphic. Quarterbacks with 2 or more passing touchdowns while trailing in the 4th quarter of a playoff win in the last 20 years. And they joined both of them last week, a club here with Patrick Mahomes, Eli Manning, and Tom Brady, who all did it in the Super Bowl. Tom Brady did it twice. He did it in a AFC championship game as well. But Caleb Williams and Matthew Stafford both join these 3 quarterbacks since Brady did it twice. Crazy statistic here from last weekend's wild card weekend. Well, Matthew Stafford, I would have to give a little bit of an edge to, actually, in this matchup with his experience. He already has a ring. I think he has a little bit of an edge coming into this game. I also feel like if our offense goes down 21-3 at halftime against this Rams team,
it's over.
We are not going to be able to come back like we did against the Packers. Sean McVay will not let it happen. He will not take his foot off the gas and play not to lose like Matt LaFleur. Look at these 2025 numbers for your Rams, folks. First in points per game at 30.5. First in yards per game at 390 4.6, so basically 395 yards a game. They put up 30 points and 400 yards a game. You know, that's what you're going up against. They control the clock. They have it for about 30 minutes a game, and they are a tough opponent. And oh, by the way, the Rams do things that a lot of Bears opponents haven't done this year. They are fifth in the NFL in turnover differential. How many times have we seen the Bears just dominating this stat week after week after week? Well, at least we get turnovers. But here you have a Rams team that actually gets turnovers too. Yeah. They are sixth in the NFL in interceptions. You know, we were first. So it seems like we haven't played a team that ball hawks quite like this in a while this year. They also put pressure on the quarterback. So the sack numbers are high. I'm a little bit scared about this matchup on paper, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
You know, so
that's why the weather is a factor here and how hard the Bears can hit. And I don't think Rams ran into a team as the Bears are.
Yeah, another reason why I'm glad the Bears are practicing in the elements is because I just think it makes and dishing out those initial hits in a game all the more important.
Because you do feel them in the cold weather twice as much.
You will. 100%. As someone that literally played himself in the Midwest in some of this weather sometimes, yes, you will feel it. A couple other things about this game that I want to point out is can the Bears use that weather to their advantage and build a lead? I feel like it's been since forever since the Bears actually had a lead in a game at halftime, right? And I'm just curious if the Rams come in overconfident a little bit in this game, and if the Bears can use that to their advantage and actually build a lead in a game for once. And what would happen if they did that? You know, can the Bears play from ahead is a question I wrote down. I'd like to find out personally, but can they play from ahead? What do you think they can?
I'm sure they are capable, but it hasn't been their MO for this season. Maybe next season. I don't know. I don't see them changing it for this game. And the weather will play a factor whether they can score quicker or not.
Well, I guess if the game is close at the end, you got to like the Bears, right? The Bears offense in the fourth quarter this season, including the playoffs. This is from @NFL Researcher on X. Points per game, first. Points per drive, first. Total yards per game, first. Total yards per play, first. Giveaways a game, first. Everything is first. They're the best team in the fourth quarter offensively in the league.
But there's in the four quarters. And there's not just one fourth quarter. There's 3 quarters before
I know.
that.
And they're going to need to play at least 3.5 of those quarters, I think, to hang with the offensive Rams, weather be damned. You know?
Exactly.
At least you got to plan for that ahead of time. And I think they should come out and game plan for a 49ers style game offensively. Be prepared to score, folks.
I hope so.
All right, well, speaking of the 49ers, I got a bonus key, Nika. The 49ers play at Seattle on Saturday, and I am wondering if the 49ers can win this game. By the way, Brock Purdy is undefeated in his career at Seattle, 4-0. If the 49ers win this game, the Bears could host the NFC Championship game with a win against the Rams.
All right, let's go. Let's go 49ers.
Does that give any extra added motivation for the Bears? I know you can't look ahead, but it does make it feel a little bit more magical, right? Like if you win that game Sunday night, everybody in that crowd knows that they're coming back again next week for more. And
of course,
it's going to continue the celebration, everybody. All right. Well, that is all of Kenny's keys to victory. Let me know what I missed this week. I know we didn't talk a lot about defense, but we did a little bit during the injury report, actually.
Sure.
So go check that out if you haven't watched it yet.